Robin, welcome to the Wroxhill 10 to 1. I hope you're well.
I'm still fine, thank you very much.
Excellent. So if we can kick off, can you remind everyone what IBS Intelligence is about and who your target audience is?
IBS Intelligence has been around for 3 decades. It started out in print, if you cast your mind back 30 years ago, and we are still in print, although not currently, surprisingly enough. Nobody's printing things. So for the last couple of months, our magazine, the IBS Journal, has just been an electronic issue. It's always been electronic since we went online, but we carried on printing it. And I would hope we will go back to printing it. But as well as the magazine itself, we have a very active news and analysis website, which includes 20 plus news stories every day, features, blogs, podcasts. Alongside the website and the magazine, we have a research team that does proprietary and third-party research. And also we have a fintech lab, which is based in Dubai, which happens to be very quiet at the moment. So we have this year moved into the webinar business. And I'm very happy to say our last webinar had an audience of almost 200.
Fantastic. So do you see that progressing forward? Or, I mean, is that a short term, or do you see webinars now being a long-term part of your output?
I think of necessity, it will be a long-term part of the output. Let's be honest, everything has changed in the way we do things now, and we've discovered that actually we can do our jobs, some of us who are lucky enough to work in this way, we can do our jobs online from, well, I'm sitting in my kitchen and I can do 99.9% of my job as opposed to the job I was doing sitting in an office in the centre of London. The only thing I can't do is I can't meet people face to face. And of course, they won't let me do that anyway, just at the moment. So we do a lot of our interviews over the internet using Microsoft Teams, Google, it's not Hangouts anymore, Zoom, etc., etc. The target audience for what we do is basically a dual audience. We have a banking audience, which is a global banking audience. It's not just a UK audience, it's not just a European audience, but it is global. And it is the traditional banks, it is the challenger banks, and everything in between. And at the same time, the other side of our audience are the technologists who supply these people with the software they need to do their jobs. Now, whether that's core banking technology, which was the original foundation of IBS Intelligence. It was the banking systems that were put in place. But as I say, that's 30 years ago. These days, it's APIs, it's platforms, it's regulatory technology, etc., etc., etc. So on one hand, we talk to the bankers, and on the other hand, we talk to the fintechs and the bank techs who are their suppliers. And we bring the two together and we try to synthesize their needs and their news in one place.
Perfect. So you mentioned obviously there's change to your day-to-day. From the PR perspective, when and how is the best time to get hold of you with new releases?
I'm eminently contactable via email, which is the simplest and fastest way to send something to me. If I like it, I'll use it. If I don't like it, I won't use it. It's that simple, but we have a voracious appetite. As I say, we're putting out 20 plus news stories a day, every working day.
Are there particular types of stories you're after? I mean, is it exclusives, etc.? Are those more what you're looking for?
I think it's very difficult to be exclusive for very long online. If somebody wants to offer me an exclusive for the magazine, then yes, I will be highly tempted if it's the right story covering the right aspects of the industry that we cover. But in terms of online exclusives, you're going to be exclusive online for seconds. So that's less important, I think. What we need to be is perhaps not all-encompassing, but we need to cover all the angles. We need to cover all the regions. As I said, we are global in our approach, and I have three market news analysts who do nothing else but watch what's going on around the world and publish stories. Each of them has a geographic responsibility to do so.
Yeah. And is the best way to get hold of them as well through email?
Yes, indeed. We have a conduit, an email conduit in box called info@ibsintelligence.com, and send a press release there, and it will be leapt upon.
Perfect. Okay. Now you mentioned that. Yeah. You mentioned that you're doing webinars. So, going forward, would you like to have more access to specific types of people?
Well, one of the things that we only started doing in the fourth quarter of last year was actually the podcasting. I am not a fan of podcast programs. I tend to think they get overblown because my own background in terms of what was then broadcast is I've worked in both radio and television, and you work to deadlines and you work to tight formats and you work to tight time limits. Podcast programs tend to be overblown, and I do not want to download a 60-minute program and then spend ages trying to find the 5-minute interview that I want to listen to in it. So what we do is we do discrete interviews, not a million miles different from this in format, but audio only, and take 8 to 15 minutes of people in conversation and put them up discreetly on the website, either for people to listen to off the website or for them to download and listen to at their leisure. So you can pick and choose the people you want to listen to and the topics you want to hear about. And the length, and I'm conscious this is a 10-minute interview, the length is long enough to have some meat on the bone and not so long that people's attention span wanders.
Lovely. Are there particular types of people or particular roles that you're interested in having those podcasts with?
Well, we tend to speak to relatively senior people in the organizations in question. So it would be a CEO or a senior manager, that level of people who can give us thought leadership, strategic commentary, and analysis.
Lovely. So take out from this is that if PRs can get you that access, you'd be definitely interested.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. If people want to talk to me, I'm at the right level. I'm very happy to talk to them. I mean, for example, during lockdown, we've been putting out 3 or 4 podcasts a week.
Mm-hmm. Lovely. So looking forward, I mean, how do you see, your content evolving as we go over, I guess, the next, 3 to 6 months?
Well, gosh, I'd like to think that it's going to be more of the same, because we're in an industry, we're covering an industry which, at one interpretation, has barely skipped a beat. And if anything, has got more gung-ho, because if you think of what's happened to all of us, lockdown, social distancing, what has that meant for the financial services industry? People don't go to bank branches. They bank remotely, they bank online, they bank on their mobiles, they use contactless payments. This is all meat and drink to IBS Intelligence. It's our beat, it's the area we cover. So there's been a huge cultural shift in the way people manage their money and the way people manage their payments, not just the Joe consumer, but also business consumers as well. And that's what we're covering, and that's what we're reporting on. And that has meant that this side of the industry, as I say, has barely skipped a beat. If anything, it's thrown into sharp relief the need for the banking industry to invest in technology, and for the technologists, they've all quite happily picked up their laptops and gone home and carried on working at home. It's an industry which lent itself to working remotely.
Perfect. I'm conscious we've only got a few seconds left.
I talk too much.
No, it's perfect. That's what we're endeavouring to get across. Just a sort of a final word for the PRs listening. The good ones, what do they do, and what do you like from them?
I like sensible stories. I particularly don't like somebody ringing me up and me having to sit at the end of the phone saying, yes, and what's the story? What's the story?
Mm-hmm.
What's the story? Give me the meat of the story. And this holds true in email just as well as in one day when we all speak face to face again, or indeed over the telephone. Tell me the story. Give me the headline, and well, not necessarily the headline, but give me the meat of the story first and let me do my job. It is not my job to be somebody's cheerleader. It is not my job equally to stand and throw stones. We're somewhere in the middle. We want to be able to understand what you're selling to us, and we'll make the decision about whether it's the right story for us.
Lovely. Robin, we've come to the end of our 10 minutes. Thank you very much.
Very welcome.